Central, and today is Sunday, December the 9th, 2018. And I'm joined this evening by my good friends, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. Welcome, ladies. It's been a while since the three of us have been together. So, actually, Lisa chose our topic tonight from BZ's Nudges, and I like this one. Stepping into the streaming sensory flow ignites your superpowers. I feel like I've had a couple of these instances in this past week. Ever since our conversation about attachment, for me, it's been a nonstop.
You mean a non-attachment?
Yeah. Well, attachment, non-attachment. For me, that conversation really never got to the non-attachment part. Remember, because we talked about opening up worlds, but for me, that conversation never actually got to that. So actually, because of the growth from that conversation, oh boy, the worlds that have opened up. So it's kind of a carryover from that, all of that one, and then the one immediately following it. And it just has opened up so much so quickly that it's a bit dizzying for me. So seeing that it ignites all sorts of things is really, well, I discovered a lot of things. I discovered my process, and that opened up a lot more, and just trusting myself in that. It's like a whole gamut of things opened up by stepping into this flow, first of all. That's ignited a whole bunch of other stuff. But Lisa, you actually chose this one.
Yeah. Well, I have been personally working on noticing, because I have for so long ignored a lot of data coming in that's available to me, and I'm just not, I'm just, I guess ignoring it is the best way to describe it. Because it's there, I'm just not seeing it or using that information. And so I have been practicing sort of noticing the flow of data. And it's rich, and it's informative, and it's a brand new world for me, because I feel like it is opening up superpowers, because as I notice things, so what's transpired for me is dots have been lighting up that I hadn't seen before, because I really hadn't allowed myself to notice all that I already knew. And so for me, connecting with this flow of data, just really being consciously aware that nothing is left out. I have everything I need right here in this energetic envelope, and really being with it and sensing it and feeling it and noticing it. And there's almost like little waves I can sort of, hop my board upon, and it'll take me somewhere. And I think that's sort of, so my superpower feel is that all of a sudden I notice I'm capable of things. I'm doing things sort of seamlessly I don't realize I could do, or that maybe I was always doing and didn't notice, and now I'm amplifying that in a conscious, directed manner, because I'm noticing really all the data, and I'm interacting with it and picking up pieces that were just lost to me before. So I thought, oh yeah, this is a great topic for tonight.
Yeah, I noticed over like in the last 2 or 3 days, the more that I do just allow all of that. I love the way you said that. Just allow it to come in. And now that I am really finally got the memo, the elevator finally went all the way to the top floor about trusting myself, included trusting my own particular process, because I am the expert on me. Thank you, BZ. Oh my God. Because once I got that and really understood that my process looks a little bit more intellectual, but it is my process, and the moment I accepted that, it's like so so much more has been flooding in. So it's just been really, and then it's just that noticing, because I was so busy batting everything away, like you said the other day, Lisa. I mean, it's been, and almost at every turn more comes in, more data that's been usable. A lot of it's been very usable in the moment.
Well, there's been a couple of, I counted 5 different energy signatures asking different questions. So I want to start for a minute and back up and paint kind of a word picture of what we're talking about, in case, because if you've experienced it a bit, you go, oh yeah, and you kind of know, and then you turn it into your own knowing and you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But a lot of people just say, well, I'm alive and I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And so have you ever gone to an aquarium, a large aquarium, not just a small fish tank, but a large aquarium? You go to the zoo, you go to the big aquarium, and they have different exhibits, and some of the exhibits are like a river exhibit. And so they'll show you, there's the way that the tank is pretty long, and usually kind of a long, narrow rectangle, and it's set up to show you that when it's tidal and the tide comes in or goes out, or if it's a fast moving stream, usually there'd be salmon and stuff like that, that it shows you as things flow, the fish may be hanging there, but all this stuff is happening that's going past them. So that's kind of a good visual metaphor. On the one hand, we could say, well, we're in life, and you woke up this morning and it was a Sunday for you, you did whatever you did, that's your normal thing, or you happen to do today on the Sunday. So maybe you woke up and you thought, oh, it's good, I can sleep late, or oh, I've got to go to work, or whatever it was, and you started to do things. And in that starting to do things, there may have been normal sounds that you would be aware of, you would notice in your house. Maybe if you have animals or a partner or other beings living in your house, there's sounds from that. The sounds when you go into the bathroom, flush the toilet, do the shower, brush your teeth. There's sounds if you turn on a coffee pot. So all those, that's all data, right? And actually, if you were in the habit of noticing, and in one of those sounds, just to take a toilet, for example, when it flushes, it makes a certain, when you push the lever down, it makes a certain thing. And whether you may notice that you've noticed it or not, the tank takes a certain amount of time to fill up, and then it's quiet. So you probably don't notice it. Maybe you never notice it enough. But if it didn't fill up, unless you were completely, because you notice something was different. Or if it kept running, right, you would notice something is different. The running toilet is one that's, that finally, even if you're not noticing, gets through, because it's that subtle noise that's really annoying, right? Okay. So those are the kinds of, that's data that's happening all the time. And either you're in the habit of noticing, and it could be anything, right? Do you notice that there's rain against the window when it's raining? Or do you just look out all of a sudden and go, wow, it's really raining out there? So part of that noticing noticing doesn't mean it's right at the forefront. Noticing doesn't mean that you're preoccupied against everything else because I got to watch each individual raindrop, right? Noticing means that you're tuned in just like you're breathing. And so life and all that's occurring around you is ebbing and flowing and breathing, and you are part of this whole great cosmic dance that is your reality on a linear level. And now people are being more aware of on a multidimensional level, quantum and all of that. So this stream, the streaming sensory flow ignites. So the streaming sensory flow, just to, I kind of gave you a linear, is if in the aquarium, the big fish tank, and everybody, because whether they've seen one in real life or not, and kind of knows what a salmon, that's still salmon shaped and not a fillet shaped, kind of looks like. It's a pretty big fish, depending on the variety, and the water coming through, and you might see some eelgrass or something, so you can imagine it waving. So all of what's around us is like that. It's a stream, and there's all of this data flowing through, and we can notice all of it. So that all that encompasses that data within our section, let's say, of the stream, that may be, our room, our home, our office, right, our car, or what. Okay, so we think, well, we're in the car, so we're going to kind of notice, does the engine sound right? Are the windows rolled up? Is the window down a little? And I can hear that whistling noise that happens if only one window is open and the rest aren't because of pressure, right? I'm trying to pick out little things that most people have heard. So that's part of the stream of sensory data. And it's more than just that linear, but I'm trying to go for the obvious. But you can also be aware of all of those sections that you would consider your own. So your house, the toilet flushing, your car, or your mode of transportation that you usually take. If you have an office that you go to work at, or it's your own office, or a place you go to work, or wherever places that you normally go, there are streams within that. But all of everything else on the planet itself, in what you might think of as a linear, that's all part of your stream as well. Your sleeping state is part of your stream as well. The functions, kind of you might say the routine functions, or the rhythm of the functions of all of your bodies, mental, emotional, physical, that's all part of your streams as well. What's happening in different parts of the world, even if you're not there, and you may or may not have turned on and know what the yellow vest is, right? But that is part of your flow. So you're not missing anything, you're not separated from anything, and we're part of it. As you start to at least allow that to kind of enter in and play with your whole possibility, you realize that you can, take your focus, your camera lens, and train it to different places to isolate something, or you can kind of let the whole beautiful cacophony of all of that wash over you, and then just pick things, or just flow with all of it. So that's, I think, helpful to understand, and or at least to play with on a very cursory level, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I was, for some reason, and this came in earlier when Lisa and I were talking about something earlier today and yesterday. Actually, it had to do more with what's going on with Q, but I think it has to do with data as well, actually.
Well, everything is data.
Well, no, I know, but I meant the streaming of it or whatever. It's like something came in to add to what you were saying that would assist in more of a linear way, but I guess it didn't. It's not coming out right. It's not flowing properly, but. No, it's gone. Sorry.
You remember the movie Lucy?
Yes.
Okay. And there's lots of different scenes, but one scene, they're about to go on a car chase and she's sitting in the passenger seat in the front seat and she's parsing through all the data streams of all the cell phones, right? So the cinematography representation of that is like, that the lines of bits and bytes of data, zeros and ones, different colors, they're all thin. So it's like she's kind of parsing through one of those old, 60s spaghetti curtain thingies, right? Yeah. And so she's isolating a stream of data. In this particular instance, it's cell phone data, which is audio data, and that's carrying the right. And as she narrows it down, she's getting closer. In other words, she's tuning more into. So the visual is that instead of maybe millions of strands of white lines going this way, as she gets to a section, they take on different colors, and then she can grab the one she wants, and she can then send a message to this. So that's a good visual. And
okay, so I'm if it's all right, BZ, I'd like to transfer this into something else to see if I make sure that, because sometimes when we talk about everything is communicating with us, it is similar to that. That was a video, very in your face representation, but just sitting in nature for me sometimes is very much like that. Mm-hmm. It feels like that.
Yeah,
because the wind is communicating with me, and the leaves that are going across my path are communicating with me. And so it's for some reason I felt very led to add that I'm equating what you just described there in my physical right here and now. I don't see those things, but that's what I equate that to.
I just mentioned that because that's a movie visual that you can go find the trailer probably and see the picture, and it may come for you. You may be able to, if you thought for a minute and tuned in to the trees and the wind and this kind of thing, you may see harmonic geometric patterns that are the harmonic strings and strands of the flow of all those communications, and then you could dial into that. You could fine tune into it. That's kind of what we're talking about here when you're playing in the streaming sensory flow. So for an example, just to give, being outdoors is my favorite way to play with these things. So if you ever been out at night, and you can go out and you can actually hear the stars breathing. They make to your ears an auditory. Mostly it's an energetic sound, but you can be auditory as well. And part of the reason that you can pick that up is because you actually are tuned in, and as you look at them and just feel them or observe them or just notice them, you actually now are coming into connection more directly with them. Does that make sense? So everything is like this. You can pick any subject on anything, and it's all like this. And maybe because again, this is a really big subject, but I think most beings don't realize that there is this stream. Lisa said it herself, that, okay, I just realized there's a whole lot of data, like, you know, she's in the middle of a 52-lane highway and she never noticed all those cars whizzing by.
Right.
She's right in, you know, on lane 47, and she's like, whoa, holy smokes. That's what it's like, although it's not limited to just the linear 52 lane.
Nope.
Well, not at all, but when you take into account, and this is why I think that a lot of us, myself absolutely included, because the noticing of that data actually in the systematic programming and conditioning to direct us away from the important data streams and into that which would take a focus and attention to a different direction is what I find for myself now. I am in the midst of changing the course of, if you will, recognizing the programming and conditioning as I can, as it comes up, because it is the focus and attention on the things that take our attention away, for me anyway, as I've been going through this. That's a data stream, and focus and attention can be focused there. That, but for me, getting to getting to know and figuring out how to operate my vessel in conjunction with all of that, that takes focus and attention. To go from this to making sure energetically I can do that takes focus and attention. I think, because that's what I'm working on. So, but in order to do that, I have to figure out the programming and conditioning and really get it. I don't want to use the word under control, integrated for my to serve me in whatever way it can, because I think some of it can when directed properly, or in a more focused, healthy, attentive way on my part. Some of it, not all. Some of it just needs to go. But
yeah, and the delicious thing that everybody's experienced right this moment is the energies are such that they're giving a huge helping hand, a huge buoyancy to your abilities to do that, even if it was never on your radar, and oops. And what you can do with all those energy flows is that you talked about, giving it your focus and attention and the conditioning in the program. So yes, that's part of navigating, but you can let a lot of that go now, because you're able to notice a distortion filter that may be on top of something, that piece of data, we'll call it, that you're looking at. And you can say, distortion filter. Oh yeah, you can like peek beyond and say, okay, and then you just move it to the side. It can still keep doing whatever it's doing. That's fine. So you're not needing to take your focus and attention away from anything else. You just realize that it's there. So our our kick-ass creator beingness is not being from external sources, let's say, not being dimmed nearly to the extent that it was. Now, when our internalness dims it, that's free will choice. And only we can fix that. But external sources is not being dimmed as much. And so we can then see those distortions and look, kind of like if you think of, you know, if you're looking at a big plate glass window and you're looking at something that's kind of interesting, so that would, on the other side of the plate glass is your data streams, right? Part of the glass is kind of filmy, so it's distorted what you're seeing, and part of it is crystal clear. Oh, so you know, if you just move, there's a line, and you look on this side, right? You know, you can see. Well, so again, you have control of that, and you go, oh, well, I can just move to the right, you know, and look a little more clearly. Then you stop having to kind of divide your attention, is what I'm saying. But everything, as Lisa talked about, you know, you mentioned, and maybe you can give some examples from what you just experienced, Lisa, but you said, well, there's all this data, like, you know, you thought you were living on and flowing on and driving on maybe a 3-lane highway.
Right.
And all of a sudden sounds like in the last couple of days you're like, holy smackaroonies, there's 58 other lanes on this highway. Where'd they come from?
Yeah. Yes. And a lot of it cannot be labeled. Some of it can. For instance, I'm just going to label a few of them. Color, texture, fragrance. Well, like Sheila was saying, breeze, any of the elements really. There can be a subtlety to I've been noticing something I'm going to call opalescence. There is like a shimmery, not glittery, because it's not glitter, but it's shiny, and it there's a little bit of color to it. There's like a sheen, but it's very fluid. So it's almost like, you know how Mercury moves? There's something to Mercury that you can see the way it catches light or something. So I don't know, there's something even in the air or in the sky, I'll see this shimmery, I don't know, just information that has probably been swirling around forever that I'm just now really starting to take notice of. Temperature changing. I've been doing some very interesting sweating. Just, I don't know, all kinds of data that now I take into consideration when I'm considering a thing. And being present in the now moment helps me to stay in this flow as a tool for that. So this superpowery thing too is also real, because in that state of noticing, I know that my heart must be just so wide open, because all of a sudden I will see and feel solutions fly in. Like, for me, I'll notice all of a sudden I'll remember something, and it could be like, it'll take me to the past, or, you know, like way in the past, or it will remind me of something I saw on the internet, or just a flash of something, but it will pull in and connect dots to the solution, meaning it gives me, I don't know, there's just like, there's so much information available to me now that it's almost like sitting with the problem, and I know problem isn't the right way to, But whatever it is that, because like I've been sort of holding things as a problem and working on them. And in just sitting and noticing, there really isn't a problem, is what I realized. There is no problem. There is a lack of awareness on my part. And the more I become aware of, the more I'll become aware of. Meaning it seems to pull in, so I'll acknowledge, oh, wow, I'm noticing this or that. And as I notice that, then that fact will sort of pull something in. And then I'll notice how that made me feel. And I'll think, oh, and that'll pull in the next thing. And I'm sort of doing this resonating thing that I used to need two people to do. Because, I could sort of get information. I am communicating with the data in ways I've never done before.
Same.
Yeah, and discovering that I'm loaded with superpowers. And it was all right there in the data. And really the act of my observing it called it forward. And the more that I observe, the more pulls into me, to acknowledge and to be aware of. And yeah, so I hope that answers.
Yeah, would it be fair to say that I'm going to re-say what you just said, but with a slightly different thing. So you're a conductor, and all of a sudden, as you're conducting all of these things, and you fine-tune one section over here of this orchestra, and you're teasing out that, there are different instruments that play at different, alto and soprano and all that kind of stuff, right? The same instrument, but each one is a different. There's an alto sax and so on and so forth, right? And as you're teasing that out, you can hear more of the nuance that each individual one has. And in that, it actually then tunes your ear, I think is the right way to describe it, to other nuances in other instruments that you then pull in on this part of the whatever piece it is you're playing. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's, I think, helpful for people to hold it, because until you get into the place where Sheila and Lisa, and you can tell by their energy, you can tell by their faces, you can tell by their excitement about it, that they've been in and they played with it, and the data means something when they get there, then data and the word and the feel and the thought of that does when you haven't gotten there yet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you've gotten to the place that we're all playing with and describing, and Lisa and Sheila most recently got there, so they're beaming from that still, right?
Mm-hmm.
Data is the best possible term because it includes everything, excludes nothing, and actually lets them be able to en masse describe all of the nuances, all of the variety, all of that with it.
But how you just described with the orchestra, and you both have at different times talked about the resonating and the spiral, and how, in the quantum, it's not linear because it can be here, it can be there. When you did the orchestra, I saw something so clear for myself that just took place today, that I've been following my nudges all day long. I've been doing whatever I felt nudged to do. And it has looked like a crazy woman. I don't even, if I was going to judge it, which I haven't, I I've been floating around from room to room doing this, that, and the other as I felt so directed. Not, I mean, and everything has flowed absolutely wonderfully, but I was marveling at myself as I would go from one project to another that seemingly didn't have anything to do with what I had just, in other words, I pulled out this, that, and the other, and I was organizing this. I stopped in the middle of that and went over and got something else to organize and do. I was allowing myself to be directed and just doing it and not asking any questions. By the end of it, however it was, I had a lot of different data come in, and everything I wanted, a lot of the things that I wanted to do that I've been wanting to do for quite some time got accomplished. And I've had such a fantastic day getting all of this data and more flowing in, that it's just been, I hadn't thought about it in terms of bringing in these seemingly completely disparate parts that didn't look or feel like they would go together. And yet I ended up with this magnificent symphony by the end of today, by
Yes.
our meeting with you.
And that's why I brought in that metaphor, because, and this is a really important thing to highlight.
Yes.
Really important thing to highlight.
I can't tell you how important.
So you are in the symphony of your creatorship. You're not coming to this friggin' planet to be born and do this or do that and die and be worm food. Sorry, it's just not what's going on. It's not the truth of who you are. And so what you described, Sheila, is going through a flow of things and creating. So on the one very narrow focus level, you organized a bunch of junk that's been cluttering up your space. Finally got off your butt and did it and got it right. Okay, fine. If you like, if that's what your focus is, cool. All right. Check it off. Yep, done. But really what you were starting to dance with and flow in the orchestration, if you created a video of what you did today and you gave each thing a really rich, vibrant color, perhaps a tapestry of colors for each movement and each thing that you were doing, you would see that on one level, you got stuff cleaned up and done. On another level, you actually unwound and unbound previous experiences in this lifetime, in other of this lifetimes, let's say, of other aspects of you. You connected dots. You traveled in various multi-dimensional ways for different things, all in the weaving of this, or the, the playing of this part of the symphony of your experiences. Because that's what we do. We're creators. So we create things, then we flow in that experience, and we create things, and we flow in that experience, and we keep going on and on. We don't, go for a time zone or a length of time or a work shift, or, yes, that's part of what we're experiencing now and part of what we're all bringing to a close. So the beauty of what you experienced and what you're touching on to share with beings, and kind of what this is just nibbling at this very big conversation is about, is, first of all, that these things exist, that all of these streams of data, right, exist. And you don't have to be standing next to, a physical thing to go, oh, okay, that's a metal piece. I see it. It's got a blue light. It has sound, right? The data that you can experience can be all over your city, all over your state, all over your country, on the surface of the planet and within the planet, out in, the stars per se, in other galaxies, in other dimensionals, in non-dimensional form, interdimensionally, on and on and on and on and on. And you can partake in the data from the streams of the flow of all that information, however you want to describe it, from something that's happening in Washington, D.C., or France, or all sorts of other, or up on a starship, or all of those different things. So I'm going to interject for a moment something that I think a fair number of people have heard of, whether they thought anything more about beyond just hearing about remote viewing. Okay, well, so in essence, that's just tapping in specifically to a data stream, encountering the data, and then giving a pictorial representation to what they encounter. That's why with that there's specific protocols that are set up. You don't use labels of things, and if you do, you write a little thing and so that you know that that's a label because it came from here and linearized. And you also don't know what it is that you're viewing, because that again sets up a box-like structure in your mind. So I bring that in because, again, if someone's saying, well, that's not possible, well, even if they've never experienced remote viewing, they've heard about it in different aspects, and they've maybe even seen some things on YouTube or other places. It's actually been on national television and stuff like that about different things or events, let's say, that have been remote viewed and so on and so forth. So they know that there is empirical data about that. That's just another, what I'm trying to do is blend, one way you could say the fantastical with more the linear, except really none of it's fantastical. If anything's fantastical, it's that sector, that kind of narrow corridor that we label as the linear, or we think is just life. That's, if anything is truly fantastical, that, because it's so far out of the realms of the totality of the rest of what we are, it's very different, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely perfect sense. To me anyway. See, I had an experience that taught me that I clearly get why my very first comment to you, BZ, ever, I think, was in the first creator call. And I said I didn't belong there because I always jump straight to the fantastical. Well, wow. I saw that this weekend. I was like, wow, because I really do that. And I love this. I love, especially with these little bits and pieces that are sliding into place for me now. It just feels so exciting. I can see how I clearly did not trust myself 100. And now because I wasn't trusting my own process, this is why your information about you are the expert on you, and following nudges and noticing these are tools. These are the tools. And practicing them at every moment along with really paying attention to self, for me, ouch, ouch. I mean, that's
and you can connect them together, so you don't have to. What I'm saying mean is you can, when you're playing with them and you're having experiences, there are different ways that you'll find and see that you can kind of get feedback, although doing something to get validation is not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about where, as you're playing with things, you can get feedback, if that makes sense. So where someone else can say, oh, I had this experience, and you, whether it's quote unquote a dream that one remembers, another remembers, and even if you don't know each other very well, and you go, oh, and then because it's a data stream, it lets both of you pull some from it. I'll give an example that's I was wide awake, so because sometimes I think people get a little thinking, well, that's a dream time and dreams aren't real. And okay, so I'm going to give a real example where I was wide awake with lots of, I don't know, thousands of other people around. So it was shortly after I moved to the Pacific Northwest and around the Seattle area, and Pike's Place Market is a big, even if you've never been to Seattle, a lot of people have heard about it. It's just a cool marketplace and so on and so forth. So we went there, and then there was right across the street, there's a big aquarium, except this aquarium is right on Puget Sound. So that's kind of part of it. And I was with a couple other friends there, and I was, just going through and just being with whatever was going on. I might be with and read a sign. I might be with talking to one of these people or somebody else, or looking at something, whatever it was, following nudges, right? So I was just being, in connection with everything. And I got nudged to walk across this area. I guess it was a big room with their various exhibits, because there was a beautiful piece of driftwood. There was lots of them, but this particular one said, come over here and see me. Okay, so I went over there and I put my hand down on it, and immediately I was on the beach on the Pacific Ocean. And I think as a crow flies from where I was at that moment, probably, I don't know, 300 miles or more away, complete with feeling the weather, the air, the temperature, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the noticing, seeing things going on, watching people on the beach, this, that, and the other thing, right? Fully immersed in that. You could say my physical body was still, at the address that was right across from Pikes Peak Market, right in Seattle, in this building. Anyway, so I came back, and that was cool. And my friends came over. One of them is, has the ability to knowingly do a lot of connections. She said, where did you go? You were not in the building anymore. And I laughed and I said, huh, that's interesting that you picked it up. So was I outside the building? Could you tell how far, because one of the abilities she has was be able to kind of locate things. And she said, well, you weren't even within, 6 city blocks from here. I got worried where you went. So then I told her the experience. And the reason I bring that up is because there was someone total external to me, not even standing next to me when this happened. And she got worried because when she sent her radar to ping me where I was, I wasn't there. It's like if you're looking in a room all of a sudden and this person that you're with is supposed to be right here and you can't see anything. You kind of look around it. So we can all do this. We can all do this in various ways. And I think maybe right for this energetic envelope, that would be a good place to start to close it simply just in understanding that all of this is available to all of us right now. You don't have to eat a certain thing or stand with your leg in a certain direction or wear the right clothing or listen to the right, kind of calming music, whatever it is. It's all here right now. And in fact, not partaking in it, not connecting with it, not noticing it takes a lot of effort. The energies are such right now, the whole flow that you're immersed in, whether you try to or not, because you are, so you have to try not to be, just really supports all of that. And these are tools that are cool, that are fun, that illuminate, illustrate, and kind of accentuate the truth of who we are. And they're really, I think it's fair to say, crucial for us to start to familiarize, as if for the first time. It's not, but that's what it may feel like, because the jumps, the shifts, the changes, the amplifications, the accelerations are going to be happening so fast, moment by moment by moment fast. Like if you start at 6 o'clock in the morning and midnight is the end of your day, right? You could count 30, 40, 50, 100 accelerations just for you alone within that time span. And they beget more acceleration. And if you start to at least have an approachable awareness, even if you haven't experienced it yourself right this moment, it's going to help you tremendously, because otherwise you're going to go, wow, ho, yeah, and it's going to be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
The good stuff's, here.
Yes, and I have to be honest, the playing with it at this point, it feels so delicious that, but I have to say that it's that trusting that really, and that includes everything. And I know, let me just say, for those that are looking for tools, I have held that I was doing something wrong for a long, long time now. And it feels to me that the very moment I acknowledged to myself and out loud that this is my process, whatever this is that I'm doing, whether it's here with you all, and it's also a very verbal process, and it appears to be a very intellectual process for me, but I've gotten over that, because I really think there was for me personally, there was like a block in there, because I know there's all this stuff about ego and intellectualizing things, but it feels to me that the very moment that I relaxed into knowing that this particular way that I go about things is indeed my process, something inside of me clicked. And it was as though I allowed that process to be what it is and not try to shape it into anything, because I know what I'm doing, and I will turn around in a hot second and ask myself, okay, wait a minute. What are you thinking here? What is it, at the very moment of any kind of anything? So I know that I'm questioning myself on a lot of my programming and conditioning as it comes up. So it just felt like the minute I accepted that, because that is something I was trying to bat away at all costs, you know, because I got the smarmy thing going on and all of that too, right? But so I cannot say it enough that for me personally, and I got a feeling it's going to be for all of us, when BZ says you are the expert on you, just because someone else says that you got this, and this going on, and you need to change it another way, you will find your own way once you trust yourself. That's what I now feel so strongly for myself.
Yeah, and you're always expanding, so your whole repertoire and how, you know, one moment it may be shaped like this for you, and then like this and like this and like this, right? So as long as that non-attachment, right, is pervasive in whatever moment of the day that you are for you in your thing, then you've got it. Because at each moment, you are the expert for you. That does not mean that 3 moments ago and this moment now are exactly the same.
No, that's right.
But you are wherever you go. So you're, right, the expert.
Yes. Yes, and I'm still very, very, very aware that I still have a lot of programming and conditioning yet to unbind and unwind as well. But, you know, that whole thing of knowing there's an issue is half the issue, half the problem solved. Well, I really feel like that's a good thing to hold for myself, knowing and then taking a look at, well, wait a minute, okay, I don't know, it's just I cannot recommend it enough. So
yeah, and a fun thing to add to that is loving yourself and giving yourself a break is a fabulous tool, and you know, make sure that's stuck to every other thing that you're looking at, and it's the bigger piece, and then you're really cool.
You can't go wrong that way.
No, that's exactly correct. I mean, yeah, because I've held a lot of the stuff that I recognized now, and I'm calling my process. I didn't like that stuff about myself. I was holding it in a completely different way, and I also see where that was something where parts and pieces were, you know, programming and conditioning of that I experienced, but then other pieces of it were programs self-imposed as I grew to try to deal with something else that this over here caused, and that sort of thing. That's why it's, for me, been very layered, and I'm sure that will be for every human on the planet, well-being period, I'm sure, because we are multi-layered.
Let me say it this way, because we're talking about data that we're noticing, right? So back to Lisa's highways, right? See if this feels like a fair to say description, right? So you just said a moment ago that some of the pieces you realized were part of your process, but and I'm paraphrasing, but I was nitpicking them to death as something I didn't like and trying to make them go away, not realizing that they were part of my process, right? So
yeah, I was holding them in a different way.
Yeah. So if we look at instead of, it's really, you know, we talked earlier about, you know, focus and attention on something. So we all have our own process that's continually expanding, whether it's just in this moment, in this century, in this eon, in this eternity, whatever, you know, scope of time you want to play with. Mm-hmm. And there can be various distortions that may come on those things. And instead of just not fighting it strictly as a program and conditioning, because we're swimming in the linearness right now, and instead realize, oh, my process with a layer of distortion on it. Some I had a part in, something else had a part in. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I could play with the labeling because that may be fun. I may want to do that, and that may be a whole source of expansion. But the distortion is just there, and I can notice the distortion. I could or could not, depending on how I feel in that moment, because I'm a creator being and it's me, and I'm the expert for me. Play with the distortion, take it, where did it come from, where is it, how to get rid of it, how to whatever, or just notice that it's there. And since I can clearly see all the rest, the distortion actually fades away into nothingness that can then come back around into some other form, because it's all energy.
True. And it can also, especially if allowed to, like I have come across a distortion that I didn't quite grasp. I mean, I knew it was there. I could see it. I could feel it. And so now what I'm with this new expansion feeling, well, just a more expanded feeling, period. I can see the value for myself in allowing that distortion to reveal itself to me, just like everything else, because sometimes there's, again, maybe a little something extra hidden under there that I didn't see before, that distortion will serve to help me see. Mm-hmm. And because I got to be honest with you, that is exactly what Lisa and I experienced in line at the grocery store that we kind of shared with you, that because you weren't there, it was hard to state, but I was noticing a distortion that I haven't been able to do anything about. Okay. And so your word was perfect for this, because this way I can maybe bring you into this experience, and you'll see why I felt this was like that. I was noticing in that moment, for some reason, because the distortion wasn't happening. It's something that has been there for quite some time that I didn't understand, couldn't figure out how to handle, deal with for myself, all that sort of thing. So just allow it to be, right? And I don't even realize, I can't remember what brought it up, but all at once, as I was, something clicked in my head, in my field, something. And Lisa even saw it. I could tell she saw it in my eyes when I got it. And I started crying. I started to bawl right there because it felt so huge. I could see how this particular distortion, and it was like all at once. Not only did I understand and really grok the distortion itself, but I could see the different types of attachments that I had that were actually causing that distortion, and neither being knew this until that moment and in that instant. And it was so huge. So thank you for the use of the word distortion, and just some of that actually, like I said, after the clicking of my particular process, it's like all these other little clicks started coming into place in regards to, like I said, this is a specific distortion. and it was in the spirally type fashion that, like I said, that distortion wasn't even brought up. There was no, I don't even, the last thing I remember is looking at that history magazine. Remember, as we were standing, because let me tell you, with the snow here, we were standing in line at the grocery store for a while.
Crazy.
While everybody's getting the obligatory milk and bread.
Just over it.
Right. But so we were in line a good bit is why this whole thing, got to take place. But I was looking at a history magazine, and it was JFK's motorcade, which I thought was kind of interesting how that was on display at the grocery store at this moment of now. And something within just clicked. Wasn't even thinking about that particular distortion or anything else. Even related to it, I don't think. Were we?
I don't remember.
I don't think so. Yeah. It was quite awesome.
The grocery store was a trip. So.
Well, those notes from that instrument needs to be played in the symphony right that moment. And when that note resonated against all of the other instruments, you could see the frequencies for what they needed to be seen.
Yes, because that's it, VZ. Right before that, you had that kombucha bottle and you were reading about the tree of life to everybody in line because the guy next to you was just looking at you. You were reading that. That was good.
Well, I was reading it to you. I wasn't reading it to everybody in line.
Sheila was reading it to the grocery store. It was good. It was a lovely moment.
I liked what I was seeing, and I wanted you to hear it. That's all.
It was beautiful. Yeah, it was nice.
So, yeah, maybe that did have something to do with it. I don't know, but doesn't really even matter, actually. It was just so delicious, no matter how it went down. And that, for me, is the I don't know, sort of like the icing on the cake. The fact that I can't even remember exactly what we were doing right before, but it felt so delicious to finally see that, because again, it had everything to do with me and how I was interacting in that relationship with the other being, regardless of anything. It just helped me so immensely with the whole not just attachment, non-attachment, but several things in there. I don't know. It was very interesting.
It is, once you see it, you see it. And you're just never, I don't know, you can move beyond it so much easier. Just go, oh yeah, I see that. Let me step around it. You can it's so easy to navigate when you see it. It's a matter of allowing ourselves to see what is, I think is the biggest hurdle right now. I think we've trained ourselves to see what we're supposed to see. And it's time to just see it all. Take it all in, everybody.
Yeah, and take it all in, and so you're not resisting anything, you're just immersed in all of it, and then you pluck out, to use that analogy, the notes that you want to play on the various instruments, from all different galaxies that you want to play on, and that's what you choose.
It's very interesting to me that because that was huge too, the not being in resistance. And we all think we know what not being in resistance is. Until you're in resistance to your process, which means then you're not trusting yourself. So, you know what I mean? Again, I can clearly see where it's such a fine line, and a very subtle one too, between the intellectual exercise and the actually getting it. But I will say for me is accepting oneself 100% and stop looking at why I'm not doing this, or why I'm not doing that, or why I don't get this, or why I don't get that, and just move towards, you know, what it is that interests you, what lights you up, the way Lisa's said so many times, what lights up for you. I don't know. It's just such a big portion of it. And it's almost like, and I am so grateful in this moment of now too, because you have both said over and over and over and over again to me, and I just didn't take it in at that moment until recently, that about all of it being very subtle, very subtle. Well, I'm not a subtle kind of gal, right? So it's no wonder I didn't get subtle. But it's also too like the whole thing about trusting yourself, right? I don't know how to. Oh, and you both have said many, many times it's not something that you can give someone. You just have to keep going until it finally clicks, I guess. And this is not to say that I'm not going to go 5 seconds. I feel like I'm not, though. I feel like that there's not going to be any more slipping back into not trusting myself. At this moment of now, I feel like I finally have accepted myself 100%. So I guess we'll see as time goes on, but in this moment of now, I got this.
Yes, you always have.
Yes. I just didn't know it. I think I didn't believe it or something.
You didn't allow it.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. Please allow it for yourself. You will love it. This has been a really fun one for me. I've had an awesome day, though, I gotta say. Well, is there anything that either one of you would like to add to this one before we take off from here?
Nope.
Well, I would love to hear from anyone who has any kind of comment, question, anything like that in the comment section, or how to get in touch with each one of us is always located in the show more section of this video. And I would love it if you would like, if you feel so led, and subscribe if you feel so led. So,
and if you have a musing that you don't want to come and give voice to, but you want to get a message to one of us to say, hey, play with that. That's something to play with too.
Absolutely. Always. I read every comment and every email I ever get. So, yay. Till next time.